This time I will call this meeting of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners to order. Request that everyone please mute their microphones. If there is no objection from the board and subject to Executive Order number 60, the Williamson County Board of Commissioners has determined that it is necessary that this meeting be held electronically to protect the safety, health, and welfare of the public due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Are there any objections concerning the findings by the board? Hearing no objections, let the minutes reflect that the board has determined to conduct this meeting electronically in accordance with Executive Order number 60. All votes must be taken by roll call. The clerk will call your name, at which time you will state your name and express your vote. Prior to making a motion or seconding or asking a question or making a comment, also please state your name. At this time, we will have the invocation by Commissioner Keith Hudson and the pledge to the flag by Commissioner Jennifer Mason.
May we please bow our heads. Oh, Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with bowed heads and a humble heart, asking for your wisdom and guidance tonight as we make decisions during this meeting. Lord, we ask for blessings over the county. We ask for blessings over our servicemen and women, locally and abroad. Lord, we ask that you just give wisdom to our president and guidance to him during these tough times. Lord, we ask these and other blessings in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we will ask Jeff to call the roll.
Commissioner Iola.
Iola, present.
Commissioner Alsbrooks. Commissioner Beal.
Present.
Commissioner Beal.
Beal, present.
Commissioner Beathard. Commissioner Chalfant.
Commissioner Chalfant, present.
Commissioner Herbert.
Herbert, present.
Commissioner Hester.
Present.
Commissioner Hudson.
Hudson, present.
Commissioner Dwight Jones.
Dwight Jones, present.
Commissioner Ricky Jones. Commissioner Ricky Jones. Commissioner Landrum.
Landrum,
Commissioner Lawrence.
Lawrence, present.
Commissioner Little.
Little, present.
Commissioner Lathers.
Lathers, present.
Commissioner Mason.
Commissioner Mason, present.
Commissioner Morton.
Commissioner Morton, present.
Commissioner Nations.
Nations, present.
Commissioner Rainey.
Rainey, present.
Commissioner Smith.
Commissioner Smith, present.
Commissioner Story.
Commissioner Stewart, present.
Commissioner Sturgeon.
Commissioner Sturgeon, present.
Commissioner Tunnicliffe.
Commissioner Tunnicliffe, present.
Commissioner Webb.
Commissioner Webb, present.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams present.
All right, sir. And then I didn't hear Commissioner Bethard. Commissioner Ricky Jones. Not hearing those two, I have 22 present, 2 absent, Commissioner Bethard and Commissioner Ricky Jones absent.
Commissioner Jones emailed that he would be online, but he had spotty internet, and so he may be in and out. He was online earlier. I don't see him at this time. At this time, we will entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
Commissioner
Sturgeon,
Smith,
motion to approve. Second.
I heard Commissioner Sturgeon with the second. Who had the motion?
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Ellie, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Commissioner Osbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Commissioner Bill, yes.
Commissioner Bethard, absent, Commissioner Chalfant,
Commissioner Chalfant, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Commissioner Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones, absent, Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Lawrence, yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Commissioner Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nation,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Commissioner Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story, Commissioner Story, Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Commissioner Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner
Commissioner
Story,
Webb.
yes.
Okay, Commissioner Webb,
Commissioner Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
All right, I have 22 yes, 0 no.
I see a note that Commissioner Jones, Ricky Jones, is back online. Is he with us?
Yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones, the minutes. If he's yes, it's 23 yes, 0 no.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
The
So I have,
minutes are approved.
thank you.
Next, we have citizens communications, and I believe Jeff has a couple of emails that we have received to read into the record.
Actually, for this one, we did not have any for citizens communication. We have some for next month, the public hearing, but for citizens communications, we did not have any emails.
Thank you. Then next we will have late filed resolution, 2 late filed resolutions, resolution 10-20-15 and resolutions 10-20-16. Are there any objections to hearing these 2 late files? They were on your agenda and included in your packet. Hearing no objections, we will add them to the agenda. Next, we'll have reports. County Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome all the commissioners. I will first start off tonight's meeting with Chad Gray. As you know, the election is coming up, and thought I would allow Chad to kind of give you a lay of the land, what he's expecting, and some of the procedures that we're doing around here. Chad?
Well, good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, and Commissioners. Wanted to give you all an update about the voting that's upcoming and what we've been doing in our office over the last several months. We have registered almost 14,000 new voters since the August 6th election. So that's really good. We start early voting October 14th, and it will continue through October 29th. We'll be at 8 different locations. That's the largest number of early voting sites we've ever had in the county. 2 of our newer locations will be at the Ag Expo Center on the East Mezzanine and at our Cool Springs Conference Center in Cool Springs. Our hours are from 9 to 6:30 at most of our locations. Our office will be open from 8 to 6:30 p.m. weekdays. And then on Saturdays, all locations will be open from 8 to 3. We have mailed out over 10,000 absentee ballots. That's well over twice what we would normally have for a presidential election. Those are being returned to us very rapidly. We've had almost half of those have been returned through our by-mail voters. Had a conversation with Todd Horton and Bill Jorgensen and their staffs about emergency preparedness at polling places for early voting and on election day, and have been very vigilant about that, trying to make sure that there are no incidences inside or outside our polling places for the next two or so weeks. So, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, I guess that's it for me at the moment, unless you have questions or others.
Thank you, Chad. And if I could jump in, Mr. Chairman, for you that are concerned about the voting areas, many of you remember we're not allowed to, when voters come in, they will not be approached by security or law enforcement about wearing a mask, nor will the temperatures be checked on any individual coming in to vote. That is requirement of the law. The exception to that may be if they come in and to vote and then they want to go pay their property taxes, then we would ask them to put on a mask and go through the normal distancing that we require. So we will have the barriers put up here at the administrative complex. We are going to separate them once again from our car registration people. The car registration people, if you were coming up to the administrative complex, you would go to the far right, like you would go in the county commission room, one door up. You would walk in and get your car tags. If you're coming in to vote, you'll come up as you're facing the building. You'll go to the west entrance. That's the entrance over by my office. We will have a barricade line where these people can go and to vote, and then there'll be for them to be able to exit out without intermingling with the general population as a whole. Many of those same procedures will be used at the other parts of the early voting period, minus the, of course, car registration. Our next, I would like to call upon Nina tonight. She'll give you a snapshot of what's happened in the last 30 days. Plus, we're going to have a small report, let you ask questions to the Cool Springs Convention folks. I see Matt on there, Matthew Leather's on here. So, Nina, I'll let you do your report. And when you finish, if you'll introduce Matt, we'll go from there.
Okay. So in your packet this evening,
have the August end report. Everything seems to be tracking the same as year on year from previous year, except for the cafeteria fund and the school extended program fund. Both revenues and expenses are down in both of those funds, which would be expected with what's going on in the world. Also in your packets tonight, we have the education impact fee. This is through the month of September. The total collections to date has been a little over $64 million. Total net collections is $44.2 million. A little over $20 million has already been applied to projects. On this report, it does still show that we had a little over $18 million paid in protest. The courts did award in the county's favor. So we will be reclassifying those funds and they will be available to use on projects. Also in your packet is the privilege tax report for August and September. For the month of August, we collected a little over $1.2 million. And the same for the month of September. In comparison to the last 3 months of the prior year, we're tracking pretty much flat with our collections. 3.794 million for the current year. And last year at this time, 3.75 million. Also in your packet is a memo with the CT0253 forms attached. This is from our April bond sale. That was our first closing after our COVID protocols were put in place, and these forms were inadvertently left out of your packet. This is for the refunding bonds back in April. And the general obligation, we had an interest rate of 0.92%. Those are lower because it was over a 10-year period. Savings of a little over $984,000. The Rural Debt Service Fund, 11.6 million was refunded at 9.92% with a savings of 1.2 million. Also, at the end of September, the refunding bonds that you all were approved in the September meeting, we sold those. They were refinancing bonds for the 2013 issue. So 67.5 million with a combined savings of $8.986 million over 14 years. Of all the refundings we've done, I've been with the county almost 30 years. That's the most money I've ever seen someone do a refunding, which is a great thing for the county.
Please leave a message after the tone.
Also in your packet is the August conference center report. We did have a loss in August of $14,794. And as the mayor said, we have some guests from the conference center with us here this evening to update us. Andy Duncan and Matthew Lahiff are here. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind them speaking at this time.
Yes, that's fine. Go ahead, please.
So Matthew or Andy, if you want to.
Matthew, you're muted. You need to turn your mute button on.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I don't know what's going on, but I'll just do this through the phone. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. My computer isn't showing muted, so I'm not sure. Anyways, I'll talk about September, a little overview of September, then our look ahead, and then a little bit about our forecasts and what we're doing to save as much money as possible, to flow as much money to the bottom line as possible. First, for September, we had 67 group events, and 48 of those were guest rooms with meetings that utilize the conference center. And 19 of those were local meetings, and we call those catering meetings. The large groups, the high impact groups that we had during that period of time were 2 college football teams. They're from Conference USA playing MTSU. We have another one this Friday. And then we had Middle Tennessee Association of Addiction Professionals. We have Vend Engine, which is a longtime group that comes to the hotel. And then Technology Marketing Toolkit, which was our largest. And they come to the hotel every year. The sales team booked 25 definite groups and or events in the month of September. It represents $228,000 in total revenue. The impact to the current year represents $86,000 in total revenue. The other is future years, 21 and on, including $41,000 for the conference center. Obviously, there's a great deal of uncertainty moving through the remainder of 2020. We think that we've kind of gotten to the end of our cancellations, at least on our larger events. We, have tried to hold off and push these groups from making that cancellation decision as long as possible to see if there's any kind of change in the pandemic. But the groups that we think are going to cancel have canceled. There might be a little bit of risk in some of them for the remainder of the year, but we think it'll be minimal. The positive thing on all this is we actually booked more than we had cancels in the last month. So for November and December, we have 29 groups and local events on the books that are definite right now. Some of those high impact groups are Tennessee City Managers Association, Spiro Health, Tennessee Farm Bureau, and Tennessee Association of Mental Health Organizers, and a Tennessee Association of Assistive Technology. We are seeing a lot of short-term, very, very last-minute business. The groups are smaller, and I think obviously they're all taking social distancing into consideration when they're booking these, and those are the decisions of those companies. Obviously, with the governor lifting the ban, we at this time do not have a occupancy cap in our meeting space. We do still have brand mandated mask rules and hand sanitation and all the other rules that we've been following. But once they go into the ballroom, we don't have a mandate as to how many people we can go to the max occupancy. We think that's going to help, but we are very, very cognizant of the fact that most of these groups that are trying to book still want a social distance. So we're doing our best to make sure that we are able to accommodate those wishes. We have the most space in the area to be able to do that, at least in Williamson County. So it really is a positive for the conference center. Some of the highlights that helped us in our flow, and I know Nita mentioned that we lost $12,000 in August. That's kind of been about the norm since we've lost all this business. Obviously, that's not anywhere near where we've been in the past. What has helped us kind of trim those margins or to make up some of those margins of loss is the collection of cancellations. Through March through September, we were able to collect $257,000 worth of cancellations. Many of those groups, we worked with them because they're longtime partners of the conference center. So many of these groups were a 50% cancellation plus a 50% deposit towards a future event. So that was kind of our way to maintain and keep that business for future, because we will come out of this, obviously. Another highlight that we did from a sales perspective, we worked with the Williamson County CVB and Ellie and her team, and we did a virtual tour of the conference center. It's pretty cool. I don't know if you all have this document, but there is a link on the document that you can do the walkthrough of the conference center. That was paid for by the CVB, and it wasn't cheap, so it was great for them to fork over that money. I think it was around $8,000 that they spent on it. So we thank them for that. Our forecast moving forward for October revenues, we're forecasting $152,000. The budget was $501,000, and in a normal year, we probably would have hit that $501,000. House profit, we're forecasting to be $12,000 to a budget of $108,000. So we're hoping to actually see a little bit of profit there on the house profit side, but on the NOI side, we'll be down $42,000, and half of that is the responsibility of the county, so $21,000. November looks very, very similar to October, and then December we have a little bit of an uptick, and some of that is due to holiday parties that are already on the books. Hopefully we see those come to fruition. We also have some, like I said, some short-term business we're working on. I'm not going to go into the details about who and what and where, but with election season coming up, there are some opportunities in the conference center and Williamson County, hopefully for us in the next week or two. So our cost containment, there's a lot of things that we've done since the middle of March and still doing today. Our staffing levels, we are still operating at a minimum staffing level in all departments. And remember that there's a allocation in some of our other departments like engineering, A&G, which is where I'm coded to. So it's important that we cut there as well, and we have. We've permanently eliminated positions, the assistant banquet manager, a sous chef, director of loss prevention, HR manager, catering manager, the list goes on. You can read it there. We also, the managers that are still currently employed, took in a 20% pay cut, and we don't have a time frame for that to stop. I guess when we become profitable, that will probably go away, but until that time, we're going to continue with that 20% pay cut. We've tightened all of our controls on HVAC, electricity, water, all other expenses that are China glass and silver, things that, as long as we can hold off on, we will hold off on to try and flow as much as we can. On a personal note, I feel like there's some energy that's starting to happen. Maybe it's because it's getting close to the election, who knows? But, I think there's going to be a recovery, and I don't think it's going to be, in the next 6 months, but I think you're going to start to see a gradual recovery as companies start to travel again. And we'll do our absolute best to bring as much business as we can in and save where we can and make a profit for the county and the city. Hopefully you could all hear me okay. That's all I have. Any questions for me?
Are there any questions on the conference center? Okay. All right, back to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Matthew and Nina. Two closing remarks, and then I guess I'll shift it over to to Chad. I think he's got a person he is going to, Greg Lawrence. I guess Greg Lawrence is going to introduce someone. First of all, I want to say publicly to Jeff Mosley and the team, Berger, Mosley, and Carson, how much I appreciate them working very hard, diligently on our educational impact fee, setting us on the right course, writing the documentation for that so that we could free up the 18, you saw on the report, a little over 17, nearly $18 million. That will help us on our debt service as we go down the road to be able to pay our bills and build new schools. Finally, I had one comment that I overlooked one thing. I want to introduce Kathy if she's to introduce the doctor here in a minute, but also want to put on your calendar 11/11 at 11 o'clock, November the 11th. At 11 o'clock, we're having the Veterans Day Parade. If you're interested, it is a reverse parade. It will be held at Harlingsdale. The veterans will be seated along the roadway, and then the parade and the young people, the bands will march throughout the roadway as the veterans are seated. This way we can get the social distancing aspect put in. And so if you would put that on your calendar, November the 11th at 11 o'clock at Harlingsdale Farm, a reverse parade for our veterans. Thanks to the City of Franklin and WAKM for overseeing our Veterans Day program. Next, I'll introduce Kathy Montgomery, our Public Health Director. Kathy, I hope you're on here. I haven't seen you. Kathy Montgomery. Well, then I'll shift back over to Greg. Are you ready to introduce your speaker, Greg? You're on mute, Greg.
Peter.
Sorry.
Mayor,
Kat-
I'm here. I'm so sorry.
Oh, all right. Hold on, Greg. Kathy?
My phone. Thanks, Mayor. I appreciate it. And thank you, Commissioner Lawrence, for inviting us to participate tonight to introduce our guest speaker tonight, who is Dr. Deidre Parrish. She is our regional director, medical director at the Mid-Cumberland region. And before Dr. Parrish speaks, I just wanted to kind of share, I know that a lot of the commissioners have probably been receiving a lot of emails and phone calls and conversations and so forth from some of your constituents in your areas. So before I have Dr. Parrish talk a little bit about our probable and positive COVID cases and so forth, I just wanted to speak briefly about our process in working with our local school districts. And I can tell you that it's been a tremendous collaboration and partnership. So just so that everyone kind of understands what the process is and so forth, I wanted to just kind of go through that briefly. So once we've identified that positive or a probable case, which Dr. Parrish is going to define for you here in just a moment, those cases are either reported directly to the school district and to the schools, or we're notified from the state lab or from local providers. COVID is considered a communicable disease, so it is a reportable disease, and that is always reported to the state health department. Those individuals are immediately isolated, okay, from the schools. And this is, I'm speaking specifically to schools, but this is also a manner of speaking how we do contact tracing even for individuals in our community. We have a number of trained and skilled contact tracers. They start off by interviewing that positive case, gathering information from them, And then, of course, at the same time, we're reaching out to schools. They're giving us the classroom seating charts, after-school extracurricular activities, bus and lunch assignments, and certainly an absentee list. And we're taking all that information together, and we're identifying who those close contacts are. We're sending those lists to the school so that they can go ahead needs to quarantine through, and then it's also identifies a date that that student can return to normal activities. That list is also given to our contact monitoring team at the state health department, and they are calling students during this quarantine period to assess them for symptoms and to provide them with education. I can tell you that since the end of July through last Friday, we have provided contact tracing on nearly 300 school-related cases alone. That does not include all the cases that we receive from the community, from long-term care, and so forth. That is just school-related cases. But I will tell you that about 95% of all cases statewide that are reported are laboratory confirmed. That means that they have had positive COVID cases or positive confirmed cases, but only about 5% of them are considered probable cases, which is why I invited Dr. Parrish to give us a little bit of update on that information, as well as Lauren Schuster. She's our nursing supervisor, communicable disease specialist, and we're here to answer some of the questions for you tonight. So Dr. Parrish, are you on the line with us? You'll have to star 6 to unmute, ma'am.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Kathy, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, and commissioners and other staff for having me. Yeah, Kathy really summarized that very well. I was thinking, why do you need me here? So I will say, I'll give you a little bit of background about myself, and I'll kind of go into a bit more of an overview on this, and then we can take any questions. So I am an infectious diseases physician by training, board certified in infectious diseases, and also in public health and preventive medicine. So, and I've been working in public health for over a decade. Currently serve as the regional medical director for the Mid-Cumberland region, which includes like 12 counties surrounding Nashville, including Williamson. So we did, because there have been a lot of questions and several different inquiries, we did want to kind of give you a bit of an overview about the public health approach. And I know some of you already know this, but, you know, in terms of big picture, you know, from a public health standpoint, our approach and our goal is to prevent and mitigate. So particularly with this pandemic, with the COVID-19, we want to prevent as many infections as possible. And where there are infections, we want to mitigate the spread of the disease. So we do this by using several different tools. Two of our most important tools are isolation and quarantine. And Kathy kind of alluded to that a bit. So isolation is when a person becomes positive with COVID-19, that person, you know, needs to be isolated away from other folks so that they don't spread it or continue to spread it to others. And within our case investigation, which Kathy described, we actually obtained information about who was around that person in a close contact manner during the time that person was infectious. and those are called the close contacts. And those close contacts are quarantined, and that's similar to isolation, but a different name because they don't have the infection, and we want to prevent them from getting the infection. And also, if they, do wind up having it or are incubating the infection, we want to prevent the spread to others. So the whole purpose of isolation and quarantine is to stop or at least to interrupt transmission so that, the rates of COVID don't go sky high. And so that's what, we do in public health every day. That team of, professionals at the health department, just work diligently, all day, every day, nights and weekends, doing this work. Now that more things are opening up, including schools, public health is working with schools to address infections within the school population, and that's what Kathy described. And the health department has a strong partnership with all of the local school districts, both public and private, and there's a good relationship, and there's a plan and a process for how these infections are managed. Kathy mentioned a little bit about, there was a question that came up a couple of times about confirmed versus probable cases, and I do want to define that if I may. So, the gold standard of diagnosing COVID-19 is a laboratory confirmed test, which is a specific PCR test. So that's a confirmed case. A probable case has a specific definition and a standardized definition of saying this is a person who has symptoms that are consistent with COVID-19, who has been in close contact with somebody with laboratory confirmed COVID. So this is a situation where, for instance, early on in the pandemic, testing wasn't as available or accessible, and you might have had a case, and then maybe somebody in their household, a few days later within that incubation period also developed the same illness, and they didn't get tested. Maybe they didn't have access to the test or whatnot, but that type of case would be defined as a probable case. So, and as Kathy mentioned, we count probable cases as cases, but because we now have a lot more access to testing for the population, and especially in Williamson County, the vast majority of our cases are laboratory confirmed cases. And with all of our positive cases, we have the same approach, that Kathy described in terms of investigating every case, identifying all the contacts, making sure isolation and quarantine are appropriately instituted, and providing education and support, for folks during the process. So, I do, while I have your guys' attention, I do want to give kudos to your Williamson County Health Department staff, because I oversee 12 different county health departments, and I can say Williamson County is one in a million. And particularly, I want to highlight Lauren Schuster, the nursing supervisor there, because she is really phenomenal, and she is doing phenomenal work, in a very challenging environment. So, so you guys have gems over there in the health department, and I know you already know it, but I do want to highlight the amazing work that the entire staff have been doing throughout this pandemic. And so I'll stop there with remarks, and if anybody has questions, I could take those.
Commissioner Lawrence?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Parrish, for spending some time with us tonight. We really appreciate you being at our meeting. Yes, and I had a concern that I spoke with Kathy about. Actually, I have two issues. As all of us, and you're probably aware too, all of us have been getting a lot of calls from concerned parents because right now we've got 3 high schools that have been shut down in the county, and we had one before that. So really, total of 4 high schools since the start of the school year have been shut down. And the primary reason for that is because of the quarantine rules. You got one high school, according to a school board member that I talked to last week, Independence High had 8 confirmed cases, but yet because of the quarantine rules, they had to have over 200 students quarantined because they had come in contact with those 8 people. And so that was more than 20% of the school, so they had to shut it down. Same thing for Page High School and Summit. Both of those had relatively small percentage-wise, small percentages of COVID cases that were confirmed, and you ended up getting a very large number of quarantine cases off of those few cases. So the concern is going into the part of the year where you're going to get more symptoms that are COVID, similar to COVID type symptoms. In you know, in the fall, for instance, you're going to start getting allergies and asthma symptoms because of the fall plants that produce the pollens that generate that. So even me being a non-medical person could predict that you're going to have a lot more probable symptoms of coronavirus. So the probable cases have gone up dramatically. As Kathy said, they started out about 4 to 5%. Now we're up to about 14% probable. So I'm just wondering, with the rapid test available, why do we even need to have a probable category? Can we not use the rapid test to give them a almost immediate diagnosis and tell whether they actually have it or not?
And yes, and actually that is what I would recommend. And thank you for bringing up all those points, and I do want to address them each one by one. So in terms of flu season coming up, and not only flu season, as you mentioned, allergies, all of this. So, these symptoms can look very similar to COVID, which is why, we do recommend confirmatory testing to differentiate, to figure out what exactly is going on. There's rapid flu tests. If somebody, has symptoms that are consistent and it's the flu, then, it's the flu. Obviously, we don't want people with flu at school either. But
right.
But at the same time, yes, we always recommend, and like I said, especially now that COVID-19 testing is more widely available and with quicker turnaround times, including rapid tests, that people do get tested if there are symptoms that may be consistent with COVID, or if they're suspicious that they may have COVID. So yes, let's utilize those tools in order to be as specific as possible, and that's what we want. In terms of, of kind of a large number of close contacts and quarantining. So yes, I think that, so with that situation, I guess the information that we get in terms of close contacts, as the better the information that we get, the more surgical, I guess the more pinpoint we can be with decisions about quarantine. And, one kind of unfortunate thing is that, sometimes, the schools are doing a great job, kind of cohorting classes and really kind of keeping, different students in groups within the classroom or within school. But then, there's extracurriculars and there's other outside of school groupings and whatnot. And I will say, and of course, Kathy and Lauren know this all too well, a lot of the outbreaks associated with different schools might not have necessarily started within the schools, but maybe at a party out of school, and then the students come back, and then they're spread within the school. So that's it is it can be difficult, but remember, the goal of isolation and quarantine is to stop or at least interrupt that chain of transmission, because we don't want those 8 cases to go to 18 cases, then go to 28 and 40 cases within a matter of days in a school. Those are the tools that we use, not just for COVID, for a lot of respiratory reportable diseases to achieve that goal, to try to interrupt or at least stop or at least interrupt transmission. And then, of course, all of those, daily, prevention activities that you all have already described in this meeting, that we all kind of do, we just need to remain vigilant. So I will say, all over the state, all over the country, school systems are dealing with this. We're all kind of, everybody's really trying to, get a handle on it. And there are situations where, you get to a critical mass, and the best thing to do is to close the school to interrupt that transmission, so you don't get more cases and more complications, and then, kind of reset and move forward. And we hope, with the continued cooperation and partnership with the schools, that we can continue to be as precise as possible when making those quarantine decisions. And for that precision to happen, it goes, starts with that interview with the case, which usually is an interview with the parent, and getting that information, and then talking to the schools and getting the information about what's going on in schools, and then after school activities as well. So it is a full investigation, and we are, and Kathy and her team are doing a really thorough, focused job on trying to really get it right.
Hey, and Commissioner Lawrence, I'll just interrupt just 1 second, because I think that Lauren Schuster might have some additional information that might help just a little bit. Well, Lauren, you have to *6 to get off unmute.
Good evening. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Just a couple of things to piggyback off of what Dr. Parrish has pointed out, and in a few responses to some of the questions that Commissioner Lawrence asked. In regards to, with flu season coming up and the increase in allergies, I would like to point back to Williamson County Schools illness guidelines. Williamson County Schools has done a phenomenal job of developing their illness guidelines to account for those things like flu, and providing guidance to identify those sick children and get them out of school, and how to get them returned back to the classroom as soon as possible. Whether that's recommending testing, monitoring symptoms, but they do have a very detailed plan for that. And I would encourage the community to definitely review those illness guidelines. In regards to contact tracing and the high numbers of students that have been quarantined, I'd like to to point out that, an elementary school child with COVID-19, their contact tracing looks very different than a high schooler. An elementary school student is in a classroom with the same children, the same teachers all day long. They eat lunch together. They attend their related arts classes together. There's very little movement throughout the school. There's less opportunity for extracurricular activities. So there's a lot less exposure going in those types of environments. Whereas for a high schooler, we're seeing a lot more mobility throughout the school. These students are changing classrooms 7 to 8 times per day. When you add in transportation, if they ride the bus or if they carpool with other students, lunchtime, they're congregating for lunch, and then you add in their extracurricular activities, you're having a very high number of contacts for a high school student. When you look at each individual classroom, when we're looking at a 6-foot radius of exposure, you're typically looking at 2, 3, sometimes 4 children per classroom. And when you multiply that times 8 class periods per day, it significantly increases the number of contacts. So that is a good reason why we see such higher numbers of kids that are quarantined at those higher grade levels. And then also, Commissioner Lawrence pointed out that London particular high school had, on a particular day, 8 COVID-19 cases that were active, with significantly more students that were quarantined. It's important to remember that we have to watch those trends over time because isolation for a COVID-19 positive case is 10 days, which is shorter than quarantine for contacts, which is 14 days. So we oftentimes see those children who are ill and sick with COVID-19 back in the classroom sooner, which drops your case numbers on a day-to-day basis. But those contacts are still having to finish out their quarantine period. And so again, it is important to look at those trends. And then Dr. Parrish, I thought maybe if you could speak to the difference between an antigen rapid test and a PCR test, and how those are reported, with PCR testing being considered a confirmed case with an antigen test or rapid test being reported as a probable case.
Yes, I can speak to that. So so I won't get into great detail because, we can geek out on this all night, but I know y'all have other stuff to do. But in short, the PCR test, which is the test that, we put the swab all the way back to your nose, feeling like it's touching your brain. That PCR test is the gold standard test for COVID-19. It is the most sensitive, the most accurate. It is. It actually kind of magnifies the COVID within the test so that it can pick it up. And so that means it can pick it up more easily than another test like an Anagen test that doesn't magnify it. And some of the rapid tests that are on the market now, many of them have a little different way that they work. They work, these are the antigen tests, and they also detect somebody with active infection, but they're not nearly as sensitive, meaning they won't pick it up as well as the PCR test. So with these different testing, we have a little bit different categories. These antigen tests are great for people who have symptoms, and for these, the specimen is usually just a nasal specimen, so they don't have to push it all the way back, but it's more right in the nose, and it's a rapid test, usually within 30 minutes of getting the result. So that test is good for certain populations, mainly those people who already have symptoms. Whereas the PCR test, the gold standard test that we've been using, is good even for those people who don't have symptoms. And that's also an important distinction. And when you're thinking about how this disease particularly spreads, when you have people who are infected but don't have symptoms that could be spreading the virus, that's another aspect that kind of goes into the importance of isolation and quarantine. Because, for the cases that you know of, there may be some cases that you don't know of if they haven't gotten tested because they don't have symptoms. So, to the point of the PCR confirmed cases or probable, some of these other tests fit into that probable category. So we're talking a bit more about this lab confirmed versus probable, just because this question has come up so often. And what I don't want you to feel is that probable is just like, oh, we think they have COVID, they have COVID. No, it's actually very, it's a standard definition across the country and, in fact, across the world that is uniform and that is consistent with what we do, again, for similar type respiratory diseases. But as mentioned before, when people can get a confirmatory lab confirmed test, if they have access to it, that's always the best.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. When somebody's probable, are we saying that we're going to quarantine other contacts that have come in contact with that individual based off of probable, or do we have to have a confirmed case before we quarantine?
So we treat probable and laboratory confirmed cases as cases, and we do the same thing for both. Yes.
All right, so we get.
And so let me jump in. So as I mentioned, and we can go back and look at the data and look at to see, what, how many are, lab confirmed versus probable. And what happens a lot of times is somebody's identified as probable. For instance, you have a lab confirmed case, and then you have like their best friend who they've been in close contact with, who then develops symptoms. And at that point of developing symptoms, they're probable because they have symptoms and they've been in close contact with the lab confirmed positive. So usually a lot of these probable cases wind up being lab confirmed because they.
Dr. Parrish?
Okay, we lost you, Dr. Parrish.
Well, it looks like we have lost her.
Okay, can I ask Kathy just to finish, because I know some other commissioners have questions too, and hopefully Dr. Parrish will get back in here. But so Kathy, as we discussed this morning, you see my concern as we get into the flu season where you're going to have more symptoms coming in probably from students who have maybe symptoms that are similar to COVID, but it's not really COVID. Then, like we've got 80 probable cases right now. So my question is, why don't we do the rapid test on those? And if they have it, then you impose the quarantine. But if they don't, then you don't. It seems to me that would greatly reduce the number of quarantine students we might have to send out.
Well, and again, Commissioner, one of the things that we discussed this morning is that we are following the guidance from the CDC and from the Tennessee Department of Health. And, right now that's the guidance that we have available to us.
Okay, that's why I'm sorry, Dr. Parrish.
Wait.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sorry we lost her, so she could answer that question. But I know you're following the guidelines, but it seems to me that we need to look at the guidelines and maybe look at possibly making some changes there.
Right. And Lauren might have.
Yeah. So when we're looking, I have the case definition that is published by the Tennessee Department of Health that is posted on the TDH website in the COVID section. And I want to point out that the definition of probable case means that somebody has to meet clinical criteria and they have to have been a close contact to a confirmed or probable COVID-19 case during the 14 days before their illness onset. So that means that if somebody presented with flu-like symptoms but had not been a close contact, we could not count them as a probable case. They would have to meet certain clinical symptoms. They would have to have been a close contact, and they would have had to, they either were not tested, had that DNA PCR negative test, or they could have any antigen or any antibody, rapid testing results. And so it's not just that we call somebody a probable case just purely based on symptoms. There has to be that epidemiological link to a COVID-19 case before we can identify them as probable. Additionally, in the probable case section, this kind of goes back to semantics on how these cases are recorded and reported out in our reporting system that goes to the CDC. An additional definition listed under probable is somebody with any antigen positive result from a respiratory specimen. So a lot of times those rapid tests fall under that positive antigen section, which makes those rapid tests sometimes count as probable cases.
Okay, just one more question, because again, I know some other commissioners have.
Oh, yeah, we need to be moving on. So,
well, this is an important subject, though, in the county, Commissioner, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. So thank you for giving us the time to do this tonight. But I just wondered, I have one more question. How available are those rapid tests? Or do we have a good supply of those in every school?
Are you talking about the rapid test?
Right.
Currently, that is not a plan right now, is to disseminate those to schools.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Parrish.
Hi there. I'm sorry that my line cut out, but thanks, Kathy and Lauren, for jumping in and clarifying things. So yeah, and again, not to take up too much more time, we can actually give Commissioner, we can give you some more detailed information offline, and also keep you updated in terms of the availability of some of these rapid antigen tests, which will be more and more will be coming available. Right now, it's not determined exactly where and how they'll be set up, but as soon as we have more definitive information, we can definitely share that. So again, thanks everyone for your patience and for your questions. And if there are a lot more questions, or you just want some more in-depth, schedule a whole separate meeting just related to COVID. So just reach out to Kathy and just let us know. But thanks so much, and I appreciate you having me.
Thank you, Dr. Parrish. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any more questions.
all right, Commissioner Story.
Thank you all. Thank you, Chair. So yeah, got a one quick follow-up and then one question about about why we don't. I'll get to the follow-up. So basically, from the probable cause cases standpoint, it looks like we've actually tripled the percentage of probable cases based on the downloads we get from the state of Tennessee. So I think that's part of one of the concerns and questions that a lot of people have that have reached out to me is, the probable case count today is close to about 1/6, or between 1/5 and 1/6 of the total population. I think it's getting close to 100 cases out of the 600 or so cases we have. So I think that's one of the biggest concerns of why we've gone from 4 to 6% up to around 14 or 15%. So yeah, I think if we could schedule something to discuss that, that would be great to kind of get a better handle on that. But from a quarantining standpoint, before around middle of March, beginning of March, when the school system shut down, it was almost a year before kids actually got back into class for our school system in Williamson County got back into class, almost a total of 6 months. And I think that's been the biggest frustration from a parental standpoint and a student standpoint is the time away from class. And that's my biggest, I guess, point of frustration from a student standpoint and from a classroom dynamic standpoint is when you have 8 to 12 to 16 total cases at a school that generates 400 to 500 to 600 quarantine cases that basically shuts down the school. It takes away the child's in class experience and the classroom dynamic. So can what is the option to take away the contact-based protocol to quarantining to make it symptom-based, a symptom-based protocol, and then deploy the rapid test if you are having symptoms? Because I really think that's where we need to be. My clinical and medical experience, but just from a standpoint of why can't we move it to a symptom based?
So I'll just be very brief here. Thanks for your points and the point that Lauren made just beautifully, stating that some of these newer rapid test kits that are coming out or that have come out and are continuing to come out and be more available are antigen tests. Like I said, they're not as good as the gold standard PCR, but they can detect the or an acute infection. Those sometimes, if people are tested with those, that just automatically is in the criteria of probable cases. And again, probable isn't a light definition. It's very standardized and it's focused on, symptoms, a symptom criteria and another test criteria. So I want to say that that the increase that you're seeing in probable cases will probably increase as you get more of these rapid antigen tests available. Okay. And then to your other point about quarantine, the issue with this pandemic particularly, as we talked about before, is that you can have no symptoms and have the infection and spread it. And again, this is one of the reasons that isolation and quarantine are one of our or two of our most important tools in trying to mitigate the spread of this virus. Because, if you just wait for people to develop symptoms and get a rapid antigen test, then you're behind the 8 ball already. And it probably means, you have a raging outbreak in your facility already. If it gets to that. So, and I would say, I'm sorry, also that, go ahead.
And I don't mean to jump in just because I want to make sure we wrap it up, but for everyone else. But I guess that's part of the thing is if we're quarantining for 14 days purely based off of contact, then even if we do the PCR, why can't we change protocol to quarantine until you get a potential test or diagnosis from a doctor? We're quarantining healthy kids, in my opinion, and I think one of the things we need to verify is just as you were talking about before, when this was raging first, and we needed data and understanding before we can move forward. I think part of that data is if you are quarantined, what's the percentage of quarantined students that are getting that's coming out with a positive test, and that way we can kind of know, if quarantining is making an impact, and if it's not or it is. How do we change quarantine from a 14-day to to where we can at least shorten it to where it's just until and if we can't get to symptoms, how can we just get it to where you've taken a test and come back negative. That way we're not putting quarantine, we're not quarantining healthy students for 14 days.
Yeah, I hear you. And there's even other school districts outside of Williamson that still haven't gone back in person. And it's disruptive, no doubt. This pandemic, this virus is disrupting every aspect of our lives. I'll say that you're right, quarantine is for the healthy. And that is the point, that we want to prevent those contacts from being further exposed to potentially get ill. And we want to prevent, if they are ill or if they're incubating the virus and will become ill later, prevent them from spreading to others so that, again, we can interrupt transmission. And the 14 days has to do with the incubation period of the virus. So that's what that number comes from. And I will say that this approach is standardized across the country. So this is not just, different health departments are doing it differently. No, we're following, the best practice across the country. But like I said, we can have a whole meeting to kind of talk about some of the nuances of this, and even talk about any new information or updated guidance that we may get. And I feel your pain. I have 2 school-age children myself who are at home. So thanks for bringing these points up. And, we in public health are, doing our level best to try to keep everyone, our students, our seniors, our adults, our whole communities healthy.
Indeed. Thank you.
We really need to be wrapping this up. I know she has other things that she needs to do, and if we need to schedule a special, some sort of a meeting on this, we can, but we really need to wrap this up.
Yeah, I'm done, and I do have to go. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, commissioners, mayor, and other staff. And again, I can be available for a separate meeting and even have other of the TDH colleagues. So I'm going to jump off now, and I hope everyone stays safe, and I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thank you. Appreciate you being with us. Of the people who still have questions online, that the doctor is gone, Kathy is still on here. Do we have any more pertinent questions that we really need to get answered, or can we move on with the agenda?
This is Commissioner Bill.
Yes, go ahead.
I just, again, I'm not trying to slow us down, God knows, but I just have some general data questions, and one follows Commissioner Story's, and maybe every other commissioner on this commission knows this. How many actual confirmed cases do we have in our school system right now?
This is Kathy. I don't have that data right in front of me. I don't know if Jason might have that since they're reporting, but I don't have that right in front of us. But Commissioner, I'll be happy to share with you.
Do we know
tomorrow.
how many? Do we know how many we've quarantined?
We can provide that data tomorrow for you. I don't have that right now in front of me. I'm so sorry.
You don't have to apologize. I don't mean to ambush you with it. Just one more question. Really, do we have a, and if you can't answer it, you can't. I mean, please don't apologize for being ambushed with a bunch of data questions, but do we know what percentage of our quarantine students are being tested?
I'm sorry, I don't have that information.
Again, please don't apologize. It's fine. I would like the information at some point. I don't mean to slow the meeting down. That's all I have.
If I may, Mr. Chair, to answer part of Commissioner Beal's question, we report to the state weekly our numbers of new cases each week, and that is actually on the state website. That particular state website is districtinformation.tnedu.gov. I just actually pulled it up, and it's they're in the process of updating it because Monday at 5 p.m. is the time we report that. Those are newly reported cases weekly. At this point, we've reported 55 cases from the previous week in the schools. And I anticipate that just in a few minutes, probably that will pop up. We also report a little bit more information on our website. And so I'd refer you to that. You can go to our COVID-19 page. As we go through this, we're trying to find ways to communicate with more and more information. We're reporting those weekly also on Tuesday. And it shows the school by school numbers in isolation to reference the medical information, and then total number of students and staff in quarantine. We actually report if it's between 1 and 4, we report less than 5 for FERPA reasons, student privacy under the based on the way the state standard does with their reporting, that they only report less than 5 rather than a number, because there's a potential something could be personally identifiable in the community. And that's at the very top of our COVID-19 webpage. And I don't have the totals right now because at the moment our chart is school by school. So you can pull that up with data that was as of a week ago tomorrow.
Are we keeping up with how many of the quarantined students are being tested?
We don't have that information as a school district. That may be a question for Kathy.
Again, I'm sorry, I'm done. Thank you, fellow commissioners, for the time.
Okay. Commissioner Osbrooks. Commissioner Osbrooks, you have a question?
I do. Kathy answered it. I just wanted it. My question was whether Williamson County Schools had any rapid test. And Kathy, what I understood you to say was that no Williamson County Schools have any rapid test. And to date, don't know if or when we would be receiving any. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Commissioner Sturgeon, you had a question about the rapid test?
Yeah, just really quickly, is there anywhere, Kathy, that you're aware of in Williamson County that any individual can go and get a rapid test?
We have on our website, on the TDH website, where we have testing available. Right now, I know that, and Lauren might be able to help me a little bit with this. I think it's America Family Cares, located in Spring Hill and in Franklin. I believe they're doing rapid tests. Lauren, you might want to speak to that.
That's correct. There are several clinics in the area that are local that are providing the point of care rapid testing in the office, and we do get a large number of those reports that we investigate. But I don't have specific clinic names.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner, I'll send you that link tomorrow.
Commissioner Mason, so you had a question for the doctor that she is gone. Do you still have a question?
And I think follow up to a contact. Can they not just get a rapid test and get a negative and go back? But my understanding is once a student comes in contact with somebody with COVID, they have to isolate and take about 5 days before they can actually be tested and confirmed positive, because it takes a time period for the virus to incubate or grow within your system. So it's not something where I would get a call and say, my son was exposed to somebody with COVID today, I can run out and get a rapid test. There is still a quarantine and an isolation period before you can even get that test. Is that correct, my understanding?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Somebody who becomes infected with the COVID-19 virus is infectious, or that means that they're contagious to others and can spread the virus to others up to 2 days prior to their symptom onset. We also do see a number of cases that test positive that are asymptomatic and never have symptoms. and it can take up to a full 14 days for somebody to become sick with COVID-19 since their last exposure. So at any point in that 14-day period, somebody can become sick and again can transmit the virus to others 2 days prior to their symptom onset.
And so just to kind of go back to Commissioner Lawrence's question, the rapid test, even having them at school would not be a solution to this problem, because students would still have to isolate for some period before they would test positive for the virus if they contracted it because of the incubation period.
Yes, so all exposures or all cases will be investigated. We go back to 2 days prior to their symptom onset to begin identifying close contacts. So if you tested positive today with a rapid test, today's Monday, we would go back to anybody that you were exposed to or around on Saturday and start identifying contacts from Saturday until the time the case began isolation.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Ricky Jones.
Just a comment. I've had a rapid test. They're about $150. I'm on quarantine presently, so the rapid test was negative. But, you know, if we're going to buy rapid tests and put them in school, we'll have to come up with the funding to pay for these. But just thought I'd share that.
Thank you. Commissioner Nations.
Hi, Kathy. I just have a quick question for you. How difficult would it be for the health department to track, since we have all these kids going out on quarantine? We really need to know whether that's effective or not. So would it be difficult for the health department to track the children who do eventually contract COVID who were put on quarantine?
Commissioner Nation, I'll tell you that through our contact monitoring team, they're actually calling those individuals. They're tracking, you know, which ones are symptomatic or report symptoms, symptom onset, and so forth, and also may even identify a COVID. The issue becomes that many of the parents are not are exempting out of contact monitoring. They're not answering their telephones. They might start to answer some of our questions and then later on exempt out of it. So the data is truly not very accurate, unfortunately.
What it looks like, even if it's not terribly accurate?
We can certainly make inquiries, but you know, that's really about the best that we have right now, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. Moving on, Mayor, does that wrap up your report?
Mr. Chairman, it does. And thank you to Kathy and for addressing all those. It's all yours, Mr. Little.
Thank you, Director of Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real briefly related to the prior discussion, I mentioned our website. You can go to wcs.edu and click on a drop-down box of COVID-19. The actual website address, I think Ms. Giddens had typed something in. It's actually wcs.edu/domain/1298. It's just a number. But again, you can go to our website and click on COVID-19 for that information. And we are updating it late tomorrow with some additional information weekly. I will tell you also that as we go through this, we have had 4 of our 10 high schools have to switch to remote for at least a few days. One encouraging thing that I've seen is Fairview High School was the first one. And Fairview High School's numbers have dropped precipitously since that event a few weeks ago, and so we're real proud and happy that's happening. I mentioned 4 of our 10 high schools that I had to switch to remote for a few days related to this. We've had 3 elementary schools that have had to send some of their grade levels to remote based on staffing because of positive cases and quarantines, and 1 middle school. So there's a total of 8 of our 49 high schools who at some point or other this first quarter have had to some degree or another switch to remote. And like Dr. Parrish mentioned, we're seeing it among a lot of our peers as well, as so many districts are going through this. On campus is our preference. I know many of our peers have gone on different schedules, but once we hit that point of being on campus, we're going to do our best to keep students on campus if at all possible. The 2 main issues for us is if we reach a point that the health department determines that there's a problem with COVID-19 that they recommend closure, we're going to seriously consider that. And then of course staffing for us becomes an issue based on the numbers as you all discussed. For tonight, we have 1 item on your agenda that's officially a school item, and it's a request to approve a 0% lease purchase agreement for Chromebooks. And of course, we've talked to the Education Committee and the Budget Committee about that. And there's no funding request in this particular one from the Commission. We're going to use money you've approved in our budget, within our technology budget, to make this payment. But the key for you is that if we do this, if you all approve it, and our board has already approved it, this is a commitment for 4 years based on that 0% interest, and it really creates a plan for us of being able to manage having Chromebooks for our students and pay for them over a more balanced time for these next few years, rather than have those spikes in purchasing. The market has made this possible for us. Number one, based on that 0% interest rate, and number 2, because of this time of year, there's actually available devices. Whereas what we found is when schools are traditionally purchasing these, at least starting with this COVID-19 pandemic, everyone tends to ask at the same exact time, and these aren't available. So, Mr. Chair, that's my report, and I'm of course open to any questions you all may have.
Any questions for Jason? Seeing none, do we have a report from the hospital, Williamson Medical Center?
This is Paul from Williamson Medical Center. I'm here if there are any questions.
Are there any questions for the hospital?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one quick one. Paul, do we know how many hospitalizations we have currently for coronavirus as of this week?
As of when I left today, we had about 22, which was a little higher than we've had in the past, but it's something we can manage. We have adequate PPE and staffing, and we're at less than 50% of our COVID capacity. So we're in a pretty good place.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Sturgeon.
Commissioner Lawrence already asked my question, so thank you.
Anyone else have a question for the hospital? All right, thank you, Paul. Are there any other departments or committees needing to make a report? All right, moving on with the agenda. Elections and appointments. Economic Development Council, 4-year term expiring in October of 24. Greenbelt owner Robert Ring, nomination Robert Ring. Term expiring Travis Anderson, nomination Travis Anderson. Term expiring Gail Moyer Harris, nomination Gail Moyer Harris. We'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All right, please state your name with the motion and name with the second.
Story motion to.
Smith, second.
All right, Commissioner Story, the motion, Commissioner Smith, the second. Call the roll. Any discussion, any questions? Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Bethard, Commissioner Chalfant,
Commissioner Chalfant, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Understand, but thank you, no, I've already.
Hester,
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Commissioner Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Commissioner Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Lawrence, yes.
Commissioner Little,
Commissioner Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Commissioner Morton.
Commissioner Nation,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Commissioner Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliffe,
Commissioner Tunnicliffe, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
Okay, Commissioner Bethard, I know he had put a message that he joined the meeting earlier, was having trouble, so I didn't hear him now. Commissioner Bethard? So we have 23 yes and 0 no.
All right, passes. Ethics Commission, 2-year term expiring in October of 22. County Commissioner County Commissioner Ricky Jones, nomination Ricky Jones. County Commissioner term expiring Beth Lathers, nomination Beth Lathers. County Commissioner term expiring Paul Webb, nomination Paul Webb. Constitutional Officer term expiring Brad Coleman, nomination Brad Coleman. Board Committee Commission Authority Member term expiring Rick Berger, nomination Rick Berger. Entertain a motion.
Herbert, move to approve.
Nations, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the motion. Commissioner Nations, the second. Any questions? Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Bethard, Commissioner Chalfant,
Commissioner Chalfant, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson, Commissioner Hudson, oh, thanks, sir. Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Commissioner Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence, Commissioner Lawrence, Commissioner Little,
Commissioner Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Commissioner Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Williams. Okay, Commissioner Bethard, are you joined now? And Commissioner Williams. And Commissioner Lawrence, I didn't hear you as well.
Did you get me? Lawrence, yes.
Yes, sir, I did right now. Thank you. Yes, sir. So I have 22 yes and 0 no. Absent being Commissioner Bethard and Commissioner Williams.
Elections passes. Agricultural Committee term expiring, 2-year term expiring in October of 22. County Commissioner term expiring Matt Williams, nomination Matt Williams. Entertain a motion.
Herbert, motion to approve.
Landrum, second.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Landrum, second. Landrum, second.
Commissioner Landrum, the second. Are there any questions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Alsbrooks,
Alsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Bill,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Bethard.
Bethard, yes, if you can hear me.
Yes, sir, I got you. Commissioner
Finally.
Chalfant. Yes, sir. Commissioner Chalfant,
Commissioner Chalfant, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Commissioner Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Roberts, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Mr. Mason,
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Commissioner Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
All right, 24 yes, 0 no.
And that passes. Next, we have the consent agenda. It was in our packet. Entertain a motion.
Herbert, motion to approve.
Lawrence, second.
Who was the second?
Bill will second.
All right, Commissioner Herbert, the motions, Commissioner Bill, the second. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Alsbrooks,
Alsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Bill,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Bethard,
Bethard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfant,
Chalfant, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Commissioner Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Mr. Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Commissioner Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Mr. Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. 24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution or the consent agenda passes. Resolution 10-20-1. Resolution approving lease purchase agreement for Chromebook computers for digital learning. Commissioner Tunnicliff?
Sorry, Commissioner, it's not ready for you, Chairman. Trying to get the resolution back up here. Apologize. There it is. Resolution 10-20-3, resolution accept, nope, wrong one. Apologize again.
All right, we just need you to make the motion. Move to approve.
So, motion to approve, please.
Beathard, second.
Thank you.
Mr. Tunnicliff, the motion. Beathard, the second. School Board Committee was 11-4, 0 no. Education Committee was 6 yes, 0 no. Budget Committee was 5 yes, 0 no. Explanation, please, Mr. Tunnicliff.
Yeah, as Dr. Golden stated earlier, this is for the lease purchase agreement on Chromebooks from Dell for digital learning, which will bring us to a current Chromebook for every student in the school system. I believe Dr. Golden can address if there's any questions on that.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Hello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal, Commissioner Beal.
Bill, yes.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Beathard,
Beathard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfant,
Chalfant, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Lawrence, yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Commissioner Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Smith.
Smith, yes.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
Thank you. 24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 10-20-2. Resolution authorizing Williamson County, Tennessee to purchase Chromebooks, amend the capital projects budget, and to accept reimbursement from the Tennessee CARES Act management system in the amount of $1,499,985. Reimbursement to come from the CARES Act. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Education Committee was 6-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
This is for the purchase by the schools of 4,065 Chromebooks, which will be paid from a grant with the CARES Act. This is, Nina might have any other questions on this one, but this is pretty straightforward.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Beathard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfont. Commissioner Chalfont, you're muted, I think. All right.
Chalfont, yes.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence, Commissioner Lawrence, Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Commissioner Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliffe,
Tunnicliffe, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 10-20-4. Resolution amending the 2020-21 General Sessions Veterans Court budget by $54,020.27. Revenues to come from federal through state grant funds. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
Mr. Chair, this is $30,020.27 that were not used the prior fiscal year, plus a new grant of $24,000 this year. And we are accepting these pass-through grant funds for the Veterans Court.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Alsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Bill,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Beathard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfont,
Commissioner Chalfont, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Commissioner Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers, Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Commissioner Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliffe,
Tunnicliffe, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
Commissioner Smith, I didn't hear you if you're on.
Smith, yes.
Thank you, sir. 24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 10-20-5. Resolution appropriating and amending the 2020-21 assessor's budget by $8,250 for educational incentive salary supplements, revenues to come from state funds. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
These are salary supplements from the assessor's office that in the past were paid directly to the staff, but now they're paid to the county budget so that they may pay the qualified staff.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Bethert,
Yes.
Commissioner Chalfont,
Chalfont, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Commissioner Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Lawrence, yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner
Roberts, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Commissioner Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 10-20-6. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to sign a grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of State Division of Elections and amending the 2020-21 Election Commission budget by $25,000. Revenues to come from state grant funds. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please.
This is a grant from the state to the Election Commission to purchase items to enhance the physical security and cybersecurity during the election office.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Bethert,
Yes.
Commissioner Chalfont,
Chalfont, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson, Commissioner Hudson, Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner
Hudson,
Lawrence,
yes.
Lawrence, yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Roberts, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Commissioner Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
And I believe I heard Commissioner Hudson. Commissioner Hudson, 24 yes, 0 no. I heard Commissioner Hudson come in afterwards.
Resolution passes. Resolution 10-20-7. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a grant agreement with the State of Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security and appropriating and amending the 2020-21 Sheriff's Department budget by $40,000. Revenues to come from federal pass-through state grant funds. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
This is a grant for the sheriff's office, and if you'll see on the resolution, bullet points will explain the items they plan to expend these for.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Bill,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Beathard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfont,
Chalfont, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson, Commissioner Hudson, Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Commissioner Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Yes, Mr. Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliffe,
Tunnicliffe, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
Commissioner Hudson, I did not hear you. Are you on, Commissioner Hudson?
I am now. I lost you guys for a second.
Okay. Yes, sir. We're voting on 1027.
Commissioner Hudson, yes.
Thank you, sir. 24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 10-20-8, resolution authorizing the county mayor to enter into a 2020-21 contractual agreement with the state of Tennessee for public health services and appropriating and amending the 2020-21 health department budget by $77,927, revenues to come from state grant funds. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
This is a grant total $1,249,000, and basically this is correcting the books because we're never sure 100% how much the amount will be, and this gets us into the correct amount. Nina is available if you have any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Bill,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Beathard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfont,
Chalfont, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason, Commissioner Mason,
Commissioner Mason, yes.
thank you. Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliffe,
Tunnicliffe, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 10-20-9, resolution appropriating and amending the 2020-21 Planning Department budget by $6,300 for public notice relating to amending the Williamson County zoning ordinance, revenues to come from unappropriated county fund balance. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Harbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert the second. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against as amended. Commissioner Webb?
Because the cost of this zoning, sending out the information to the other members of the county that are affected by this zoning, we would request amending this amount from $6,300 by $8,700 to a total of $15,000. So that motion is before you to amend this to a total of $15,000.
Is there a
Motion to amend.
Smith, second.
all right, explanation, please.
We may have someone from planning on here, but basically the cost of sending out notices was more than expected, and so they're amending their budget for filing notices, advertising, and mail outs, et cetera, for the town and country plan.
Any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Beathard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfont,
Chalfont, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Harbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Mr. Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Lawrence, yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
24 yes, 0 no.
The amendment is passed. Now we're back to the resolution as a whole. The resolution is $15,000. Are there any questions on the resolution as a whole? Seeing none, call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello, Commissioner Aiello, Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Yes.
Commissioner Chalfont,
Chalfont, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Harbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Lawrence, yes.
Commissioner Little, Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
thanks, sir. Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Commissioner Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Williams, yes.
and Commissioner Aiello. Commissioner Aiello, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. 24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 10-20-10, resolution appropriating and amending the 2020-21 Parks and Recreation budget by $86,198. Revenues to come from donations. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Parks and Recreation Committee was 4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
As you can see from the resolution, these are donations from various groups which the Parks and Rec Committee is spending to service those.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Beathard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfont,
Chalfont, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Lawrence, yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Commissioner Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon, Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
yes, ma'am, thank you. Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Late filed resolution 10-20-15. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to sign a CARES Act grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of State, Division of Elections, and amending the 2020-21 Election Commission budget by $231,479.60. Revenues to come from state grant funds via the CARES Act. Commissioner Webb.
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Budget Committee was 5-0 against. Explanation, please.
This is another CARES Act grant for the Election Commission. This does not require any match from the county.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Beathard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfont,
Chalfont, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
thank you, sir. Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence, Commissioner Lawrence,
We got 4.
Yes.
thank you, sir. Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
Thank you, sir. 24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 10-20-11. Resolution amending the rules, regulations, and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning the annual Board of Commission Assembly found under Rule 1. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Rules Committee was 6-4-0 against. Explanation, please.
Mr. Chair, I would defer to Commissioner Herbert to explain this one, please.
Commissioner Little, this is a rule that's been in there, and we've never done it before. It's to hold a meeting annually, but we've never done, so we want to get rid of this rule.
Yeah, the rule states we would have a yearly retreat, and we did it the very first time and have never done it since. So are there any questions? Seeing none, so you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please.
I think Commissioner Sturgeon may have a question if that's, I don't know if that's out of order or not.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Sturgeon.
Thank you, Chairman. Can someone tell me when this rule was first put into place and why have we not been having retreats? I mean,
We don't want.
yeah.
I don't remember exactly when. Bobby, do you remember when this was done?
Mr. Chairman, I bet it's been 12 years or so. It's been a while. It's been several terms.
Not since I've been here.
And we've only held one, and I think one of the reasons is that we had a lot of newer commissioners on, and they wanted to kind of have I guess, more of an educational annual meeting. And again, they did it once. We had a little bit of participation. It did not turn out the way I think was intended, and so the county commissioner's never done another one.
Doesn't the school board have a retreat every year? They seem to make it work. I think it's a good idea to have a retreat.
Oh,
No? Okay, sorry.
If
Are
we
there
have
any other
another
questions?
retreat, can we invite Bert this time?
Hearing no questions, I assume you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Yes.
Commissioner Chalfont,
Commissioner Chalfont, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Lawrence, no.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, no.
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Commissioner Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
22 yes, 2 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 10-20-12. Resolution amending the rules, regulations, and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning the consent agenda found under Rule 3.9. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Rules Committee was 6-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Herbert.
This is to add more items on the consent agenda, such as acceptance of roads and speed limits and lease agreements. It's mainly the things that don't involve any money.
Commissioner Little?
Are there?
Commissioner Little, there was some discussion with legal counsel in the mayor's office regarding this. I wonder if Mr. Mosley could weigh in on this, or some question about whether we even could do this or not, since these things were covered under another act.
No, you can do the resolution and the changes that are made. What you can't do is add things that actually appropriate money or amend the budget to the consent agenda. So that's why the limitation on that. You can add some of these authorizations to consent, but you can't do it if it's an actual appropriation or an amendment to the budget.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any other questions? Saying none, I assume you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Beathard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfant,
Chalfant, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
thanks, sir. Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Lawrence, yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliffe,
Tunnicliffe, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 10-20-13. Resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a limited use license agreement for the use of a portion of county-owned property located at 8210 Malachi Lane, Arrington, Tennessee. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
This is a license agreement to give access to this property because of special events that may go on, and we need to be able to have our emergency people be able to get ingress and egress. We may have a staff member, Kevin, I can't tell, may be on board, or someone from EMA if anyone has any questions.
Are there any questions? This is giving them the right to use a small portion of the property to get from the parking lot to the event. Any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Beathard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfant,
Commissioner Chalfant, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Dwight Jones, yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Lawrence, yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey, Commissioner Rainey, Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliffe,
Tunnicliffe, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Williams, yes.
Commissioner Rainey.
Rainey, yes.
Thank you, sir. 24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 10-20-14. Resolution authorizing the Williams County Mayor to execute a proposal with the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation project on State Route 96 East from Wilson Pike to I-840. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Highway Commission was 5-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. The explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
This is the giving the Tennessee State Department of Transportation the right to go ahead and do the project which they would like to do and we would like for them to do on this route from Wilson Pike to 840.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Alsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Bill,
Bill, yes.
Commissioner Beathard,
Beathard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfont,
Chalfont, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Lawrence, yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Mason, yes.
Commissioner Morton,
Morton, yes.
Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
thank you, Commissioner Tunnicliffe,
Tunnicliffe, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Late filed resolution 10-2-16. Resolution authorizing the Williams County Mayor. I think that should be 10-20-16. But resolution authorizing the Williams County Mayor to sign a contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. Commissioner Webb?
Move for approval.
Herbert, second.
Commissioner Herbert, the second. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please.
This is a new resolution, a new contract for services, and actually this will decrease the cost per case by passage of this.
Council, with the numbering of this being filed as 10-2-16, when it actually should be 10-20, should we be doing anything?
Trying to get to my my space bar. I think we can handle that as a typo on the number and adjust it for the minutes.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Call the roll, please, Jeff.
Commissioner Aiello,
Aiello, yes.
Commissioner Allsbrooks,
Allsbrooks, yes.
Commissioner Beal, Commissioner Beal.
Bill, yes.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Bethard,
Bethard, yes.
Commissioner Chalfont,
Chalfont, yes.
Commissioner Herbert,
Herbert, yes.
Commissioner Hester,
Hester, yes.
Commissioner Hudson,
Hudson, yes.
Commissioner Dwight Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Ricky Jones,
Ricky Jones, yes.
Commissioner Landrum,
Landrum, yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Lawrence, yes.
Commissioner Little,
Little, yes.
Commissioner Lathers,
Lathers, yes.
Commissioner Mason,
Mr. Mason, yes.
thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Morton, Commissioner Nations,
Nations, yes.
Commissioner Rainey,
Rainey, yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Smith, yes.
Commissioner Story, Commissioner Story,
Story, yes.
thank you, sir. Commissioner Sturgeon,
Sturgeon, yes.
Commissioner Tunnicliff,
Tunnicliff, yes.
Commissioner Webb,
Webb, yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Williams, yes.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. That ends our agenda for tonight. Is there any other business for the commission?
Tommy, this is Rogers. Let me get one final comment in to all of the commissioners that use the Williamson County Health Insurance Plan. Open enrollment begins on that on the 14th. That's on Wednesday. It's a short window of enrollment this year. It goes to 11/1. So you've got a couple of weeks. You should have received a postcard and even a letter showing you how to get into the website and make any changes that you want to make. There's no price change difference this year. The only plan change was in the vision care. And you will have to make an option between option 1 or option 2. One's in network, one's out of network. But all that needs to be done by November the 1st. Thank you.
Is there anything else for the good of commission?
Commissioner Webb moves to adjourn.
Herbert, second.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Ladies.